Hello everyone, I am Shikha Tiwari, Assistant Professor in Jagran College of Arts, Science and Commerce. I will teach you the subject Indian Economy. Economic growth. Now we will discuss the meaning of economic growth. It is an increase in the production of economic goods and services compared from one period of time to another period of time. Traditionally, aggregate economic growth is measured in terms of GNP or GDP. We can say, in other words, it is a process in which all the best efforts are made to increase national income, national product, per capita income, per capita output, and social welfare by exploiting all the available resources of the country. So this is all about the economic growth. Now we will discuss the strategy for economic growth. Within this, our first strategy is balanced growth and the second is unbalanced growth. We will discuss in the next PPT in depth about balanced growth and unbalanced growth. Balanced growth. Firstly, we should understand the meaning of balanced growth. Balanced growth refers to a specific type of economic growth which is sustainable in the long term. Means it is always be compiled for a long duration. It is a sustainable in terms of low emission, environment, and the balance between different sectors of economy, like the export and retail spending. In this slide, we will discuss the definitions of balanced growth. So our first definition, as per the Ragnar Nurse, he said that balanced growth emphasizes upon simultaneous, proportionate growth of all the sectors of economy. And our second definition, as per the Lewis, economic growth means that all the sectors of the economy should grow simultaneously so as to keep a proper balance between industry and agriculture for production and export of the goods. Characteristics of balanced economic growth. Within this, our first characteristic is development of all the sectors. Means there should be a simultaneous and proportionate development of all the sectors of economy for the balanced economic growth. Second characteristic is allocated to a large number of industries. Means productive resources of the economy should be allocated to a large number of diverse industry. Means to different sectors of the country. Third characteristic of economic growth is proper balance between labor and capital intensive techniques. Means the proper balance should be maintained between the agriculture, consumer goods, capital goods, as well as labor intensive and capital intensive goods. Our next advantage of balanced economic growth is better use of natural resources. Balanced growth makes the possibility of better use of natural resources in a region, as it has been observed that there are abundant natural resources in underdeveloped countries which remain unutilized or underutilized. Thus, balanced growth doctrine provides basic facilities for its better use and allocation. Next advantage is less dependence on foreign countries. Most of underdeveloped countries are depend on foreign countries, even for the necessities of life, because they fail to adopt balanced strategy. The principle of balanced growth leads to enlarge the extent of the market and external economies. It also helps to create social overheads. As a result, there is less dependence on foreign countries. Next advantage is regional balanced growth. Under balanced growth, since different industries develop simultaneously, the chronic problems of underdeveloped countries can be solved only by making investment in different sectors at the same time. These countries can develop cottage and small scale industries, large scale industries, means of transportation and communication, agriculture, trade, etc. at one time. The plans can be formulated to develop all the regions of the country by making investment in all the regions. This can be possible only through balanced growth. Our next advantage is external economies of scale. It is a balanced growth which helps in generating external economies. These economies accrue because of increase in industries and expansion of market. In other words, external economies are those which are received by new industries over the old industries. One industry has the demand for products of other industry. Suppose if a cycle industry is set up, there is also demand for iron and rubber. As iron and rubber industry were already in existence, so cycle industry can easily get iron and rubber from them. Our next advantage is encouragement of private enterprises. According to Raghunath, in his doctrine of balanced growth, has stressed on the importance of private investment. When investment is made in different sectors of the economy, there would be increase in the importance of private entrepreneurs. He asserts that the private entrepreneurs can contribute considerably to economic development. But from this, we should not conclude that public investment has been ignored. In reality, balanced growth can be materialized only if government directly participates in the productive activity. If the social overhead capital is spread over, then the remaining role should be played by private entrepreneurs. Next is helping in getting over the difficulty of small market. The balanced growth is helpful in getting over the difficulty of small market in those countries where mass poverty prevails. Such as these approaches suggest how in any scheme of development a balanced growth can overcome the hurdle of lack of market or demand. According to NERCS, balanced growth assists in increasing the demand and supply and widening the market. Our next advantage of balanced economic growth is better utilization of capital. Balanced growth requires proper balance between the investment in industries as well as in agriculture. As a result of it, economic development of a country is accelerated. It encourages savings which turn into capital and thereby investment. In this way, it leads to better utilization of capital. Our next advantage is self-reliance and economic stability. The process of economic growth involves a number of simultaneous activities like economic planning, division of labor, specialization, productivity criteria of efficiency, increase in national income, and simultaneously increase in demand for goods and services, intersectoral balances, interregional balances, etc. Hence, there is no scope for wide economic fluctuations. This process implies a self-generating economy due to less dependence on foreigners. Thus, underdeveloped countries depend on foreigners even for their basic necessities. So, this is all about the advantages of balanced economic growth. Unbalanced growth. What is unbalanced growth? Unbalanced growth is a natural path of economic development. Situations that countries are in at any one point in time reflect their previous investment decisions and development. At any point in time, desirable investment programs that are not balanced investment packages may still advance welfare. Unbalanced investment can complement or correct existing imbalances. Once such an investment is made, a new imbalance is likely to appear. It requires further compensating investment. Unbalanced growth emphasizes upon concentration on a few selected industries instead of even distribution of resources among all the countries. This concept is generally associated with Hersh Chapman. He presented a complete formulation of a strategy. Features of unbalanced growth. Our first feature, unbalanced growth concentrates upon few selected industries instead of all the industries. Second characteristic of unbalanced growth is it concentrates on those sectors only in which there are greater possibilities of growth and development, like the banking sector at the current scenario. Third characteristic, the productive resources are allocated to develop certain selected strategic industries. So this is all about the features of unbalanced growth. Now we will discuss the importance of economic growth. So our first importance is increase in national output. In the process of economic growth, all the available physical, natural and human resources are exploited in the best possible manner. It increases the national output of the country. Second importance is to increase in national income. Increased national output adds to the flow of goods and services. It multiplies the economic activities which in turn increase in national income. Our next importance is to increase in per capita output and income. Increase in national output and national income result in an increase in per capita output and per capita income. If the rate of increase in population is less than the rate of economic development. Next importance is to increase in rate of saving and the capital formation. Increase in capital output and per capita income increases the purchasing power of consumer to consume more and the prosperity to save their money for welfare of the country. Next importance is exploitation of available resources. Like more and more exploitation of all the available natural, physical and human resources. All the best efforts are made to increase the present production and widen the base for future production by exploiting. Our next importance is availability of improved goods and services. The process of economic growth makes new and improved goods and services available at the reasonable rates. This process increases the production of both the consumer and the capital goods and services. Next importance is to improvement in the standard of living. Increase in the per capita output, per capita income availability of new and improved goods and services at reasonable rates are the factors which help in increasing the standard of living of people. Next importance is to improvement in social services. The process of economic growth includes the government efforts to increase the social services, and the government aims at providing the social services like the education, medical facilities, recreational facilities, and the law and order, etc., for the better utilization of resources. Next is the helpful in balanced growth. Proper balance may be maintained between the agriculture and industry, consumer goods and capital goods, large scale and small scale industry, for the industry goods and for the domestic consumption goods, as well as exporting activities also. Last is the increase in efficiency and productivity. The process of economic growth gears up all the sectors of economy. It increases the efficiency and the productivity of all productive resources. Our next topic is limitations of economic growth. Obstacles in the path of economic growth and development of underdeveloped countries may broadly divided into 5 parts. First is economic problem. Second is population problem. Third is difficulty of adapting Western technology, lack of preparation for an additional industrial revolution, and the last is the international context. First is economic problem. Economic problem have 3 sub-economic problems. Lack of sound infrastructural facilities, inadequate capital base, limited and imperfect knowledge. So our first economic problem is related to the lack of sound infrastructural facilities. It includes transportation, communication, warehouse, banking, etc. In most of underdeveloped countries, there is lack of these facilities. Due to this reason, rate of economic growth is low. Second economic problem is inadequate capital base. Every programs and projects of economic growth requires huge of capital. Due to lack of such heavy amount of capital, rate of economic growth remains low in underdeveloped countries. Third economic problem is limited and imperfect knowledge. Market is underdeveloped countries is not very wide. There are many imperfections such as lack of mobility of factors, lack of specialization, lack of imperfect knowledge of market conditions, etc. Second limitation of economic growth is population problem. Rapid population growth creates serious problems for poor countries in which the rate of capital formation is low. This scarce capital simply goes into spreading a large quantity of tools over a large number of people without raising per capita productivity. Moreover, the increase in population creates serious problems in those countries where population is already dense in relation to land and other resources. Due to scarcity of capital goods, the growing labor force cannot find jobs in the urban areas and just adds to existing labor force in rural areas. The consequence, open and disguised unemployment as a percentage of labor force increase in the passage of time. The reverse of successful development. Now, third limitation of economic growth is the difficulty of adapting Western technology. The LDCs of the world often face certain difficulties in adapting Western technology. It is so because such technology is not ideally suited to their own conditions. Such technology is mainly capital using type, and they are basically capital scarce. So they do not utilize this technology effectively due to the use of such technology is also not possible due to shortage of entrepreneurs and skilled personnel, which characterize most LDCs. At the same time, their own technology is outdated. So they need an intermediate technology which consists of an adaptation of modern methods to their own special conditions. In the absence of such technology, the latest Western methods may be imported. The consequence, coexistence of shortage of certain factors like capital and skilled personnel and surpluses of others like large number of unemployed and unskilled workers. Our next limitation is lack of preparation for an industrial revolution. For industrial development to take place, the social and economic groundwork must be laid first. But in today's LDCs, attempts are being made to accomplish simultaneously both the industrial revolution and the preparations for such revolution. In fact, in such countries, agricultural and commercial sectors have not sufficiently developed so as to sustain rapid industrial progress. Moreover, the existing institutions and the value systems are hardly conducive to material progress. Our fifth limitation is the international context. Most developed countries of today grew with the help of foreign capital in the past. But now the climate for investment in LDCs is not encouraging due to the colonial abuses and a strong upsurge of nationalistic feeling and various restrictions imposed by capital importing countries on the kinds and the terms of foreign investment. Added to these are dangers of nationalization and expropriation. This is why today the flow of private capital from rich to poor countries is insufficient compared to needs. This hampers the process of growth in as much as economic depends on capital and investment. However, the recent trends toward globalization has led to greater informer of financial capital to LDCs. Between economic growth and development. First basis of difference is meaning. Economic growth is the positive change in the real output of the country in a particular time span. It means time period is limited. Economic development involves rise in the level of production in an economy along with the advancement of technology, improvement in standard of living, and so on. Next difference on the basis of concept. Economic growth is the narrower phenomena, while development is the broader phenomena. Next basis is the scope. The scope of economic growth is increase in the indicators like GDP, per capita income, etc. While in case of a development, improvement in the life expectancy rate, due to the availability of new medicines, infant mortality rate, literacy rate, due to the presence of or sound primary education system of the country, and the poverty rate. The term between economic growth and development, economic growth is a short-term process, while economic development is the long-term process because it's broader in scope. Economic growth is applicable to developed economies, while economic development is applicable to developing economies. Now we will discuss how it can be measured. Economic growth is the upward movement in the national income. Through this we can measure the economic growth. While economic development, upward movement in the real national income. While the economic development can be measured by the upward movement in the real national income. Now next basis is which kind of changes are expected. In case of economic growth, quantitative changes are expected, while in case of economic development, along with the quantitative, qualitative changes are also expected. Next difference, type of process. Economic growth is an automatic process, while development is the manual process. Next basis, when it arises. Economic growth is for the certain period of time, while economic development is a continuous process. These all are the assignment questions. You have to attempt all. This is a feedback form. You have to fill it and submit it along with the assignment questions.